Good morning, tubers. Welcome to RC Heli Check UK, to what is a blustery, windy day once again, which means that I'm unable to do what I originally wanted to come up here for, and it is the day after I tested the Bal Huey, and those of you who watched it will know that it was a little bit of a nightmare, and I planned to come up today to try and rectify that problem. But because the wind being the way that it is, there's no way in hell I'm going to be able to fly it. So today I thought I'd do something different, more of a kind of a how-to, shall we say. A lot of people out there, they like to look at maybe getting into RC models, whether it be aircraft or helicopters, but the price can sometimes make it quite daunting for people. So I am going today show you how you can get into this hobby as cheaply as possible with a model that I am going to build and put together, and hopefully it'll give you a little bit of inspiration to get you into this hobby yourselves and to be able to do something like this for yourselves. So let's get on with the video, guys, and I'll show you what I mean. Stay tuned for the end of the video, guys. We've got a bit of a demonstration of 3D flying by RC Helicopter Richard. Right, the plan today is to show you how you can go from something like this and building it all up, eventually get to the stage where you'll be able to build and fly a model like these two here. Now, this, what you're seeing here, is something that I've been flying now, scale models I've been flying for about 18 months, but it has taken me a while to get to it, I'm not going to lie. The learning curve for flying helicopters is not an easy one. It is time consuming, it can be expensive, and flying helicopters is a lot harder than flying aircraft. So one of the main things that you need to look at first is to decide whether it's aircraft, as in planes, that you want to fly, or whether you want to do something like this eventually. We are going to be looking at the helicopter side of things today. I will do an aircraft one soon, but for now we're going to look at how you can get to the stage where you can build and fly the model helicopters and finally get to flying things like this. First things that you are going to need is to get yourself a set of tools, and they're pretty basic. You know, all you need are like a set of pliers, a set of cutters. It's quite important to get a set of ball link pliers as well, because there's a lot of ball links on model helicopters, as you'll get to find out when you do it. Basic screwdrivers, flathead and Phillips head screwdrivers, a good set of hex drives as well, because hex drives are used very much a lot on practically every helicopter that you will buy. Align do their own set of heli hex drives. There's 4 different ones you can get in different colours. You've got black, blue, purple and red, all various in size, or you can get a set like this one I got here off Amazon, which cover from 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3 mil. That is usually the range that you would get on a helicopter. Sometimes you may have something like 3.5 mil for rotor head blade bolts, but 9 times out of 10 the range from 1.5 up to 3 mil is all you'll really need. A good spanner, an adjustable spanner, or something like this box spanner here, which has got like 4 different nut drivers on it, is a good tool. A good knife as well, because you're going to be needing to be cutting various bits and pieces. And essential items that you're definitely going to need are a good pitch gauge. This RC Logger pitch gauge I've had for years and is one of the best ones out there. They retail at around about £20, which is about $25 for you guys in the States. Double-sided foam tape for mounting things like your fly ballast unit. Good thread lock is also a must. One of the things that you must do on a helicopter when you're building it is use thread lock, because you'll be surprised how easily a screw from the slightest vibration can come out, and we use thread lock to stop that from happening. And another good thing to have as well is a really good blade balancer. This one you will see me use before on most of my videos when I've been balancing blades. This is a Hirobo blade balancer. In my opinion, by far is the best one out there on the market. It is ball raced, it is deadly accurate, and is one of the best on the market. Right, the most important part about getting into helicopters when you buy your first model is decide to buy one that is readily available and is cheap. Now, you don't have to buy brand new. There are plenty of models out there that are available on places like Facebook Marketplace and eBay, or on specialist Facebook groups that people sell models on, for you to get a second-hand model. Now, like I say, it's vitally important that you choose a model that has a good selection of spares. Like for this, for example, I'm only using this one now is because this is the only one that I had readily available. This is a discontinued model. It is a Blade 550X, and again, people that have been following me will be familiar with the mechanics on this because they are what I fitted in my Long Ranger. But I'm just using this as an example. It doesn't have to be a blade that you buy, but the size of the model does dictate on how well it flies. Now, there's a lot of people saying out there, oh, you've got to start small, it's cheap, it doesn't cost anything to, you know, when it crashes and whatnot, because you will crash. There's no two ways about it, you will crash. So you've got to make sure that you pick a model that has got a good range of spares. In this case, when I got this model, I had a lot of spares come with it, and as you can see here, I've got enough spares to build 2 complete models, and I've still got all these spares available for me if anything happens that I crash either the Long Ranger, which has got mechanics in it for a Blade 550X, or if anything happens to this model here. Everything that you see here will build up into a complete model. So try and pick a model that has got a good range of spares. So something that has been on the market for a long time and is reliable. Align do a lot of models. I have got a T-Rex 700E, which is at least 15 to 20 years old, and you can still get spares for that now from Align. So Align is a good choice for a model helicopter to go with, but you've got to try and choose a model, like I say, that you know is going to be around for quite a while and you're going to get a good range of spares from. It doesn't have to be Align. There are different models out there. We have SAB, they make a good range of models. The spares are a little bit more expensive, but they usually are in stock quite a bit. We've got Tron that are out now. Tron makes some decent sized helicopters that you can learn to fly with. Again, the spares are available on those models quite a lot. But if you want reliability, the more money you pay, the better it's going to be. There's no two ways about it. A more expensive helicopter will be well built, well designed, but like I say, you don't have to go brand new. And if you work your way up from various size models, you will get to the point where you'll be flying confident enough, and if you wanted to, you can start looking at something like this. But that is going to be a long way away. Don't expect to be flying one of these within a month or two of you flying a model helicopter, because it is not going to happen. They are flying models that fly a lot different to a pod and boom, which is what this model is. Because the fuselages add weight, they do tend to change the characteristic flying styles of the model itself. So it's vitally important, guys, that you choose the right model. Like I say, it's got to be one with a decent range of spares. Now, saying that, what kind of size are we looking at? It's a bit of a touchy subject, this, because there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, you should start small, you know, something really tiny. Now, I don't think that's always the way to go, because small models are very, very twitchy. right? And it's like a model plane. You get a small model plane and you fly that, it's really twitchy. You get a large model plane and fly that, so much more stable. And it's much the same with a model helicopter. A small one is very, very twitchy and they're really hard to fly. A bigger helicopter is a lot easier to fly because they're a lot more stable. However, they're also a lot more dangerous and they're a lot more expensive. So when it comes to picking a model to start off with, I'd say probably getting away with size and stability, something around about the 470 to 500 size mark is probably a good starting point. Forget all these little tiny 230 size models and these MPXs and all things like that, because they're just too twitchy. You can buy models with stabilizers in, but I find that buying these models with these stabilizers where if you let go of the sticks it will just sit there, you're not learning to fly a model. Okay, because the model is just sort of like, you know that if you get into trouble you just let go of the sticks and it'll sit there. You're never going to learn to fly a helicopter that well if that's going to happen all the time. Okay, so again, size wise I'd say probably around about 450, 500, maybe even 550 size. Now this is a Blade 550X, and to be honest with you, it's more around about a 600 size helicopter, but flying this kind of size model and this model before in the past, it's really stable. It is really stable. Again, looking at the long range of video, if anybody saw me do the long range of video with these mechanics in, it's such a stable model to fly, even with a fuselage on. But like I say, unfortunately this is a discontinued model. So choosing the right model, like I say, is vitally important, and you need to get one that you've got readily available spares. Sizes. What is a 450 size model? What is a 500 size model? Usually that figure dictates to the size of the blades. Now say for example if I bought a 500 size model, then it means that one rotor blade like this would be around about 500 millimeters in length from where the bolt goes in to the hole here to the tip of the blade. You measure from that point to the tip of the blade, and the length there, what you get is what the size of the blade is. Some people say, do you go from this bit here? No, you go from the bolt hole to the tip of the blade, and that'll give you the length of the blade. So like I say, usually a 500 size model has blades around about 480 to 500 size. 700 size models, one blade would be on average 680 to 720 millimeters. And then 800 size models, the blades will be 780 to 800 size. So that's where you get the reference to the size of the model. A 500, like I say, is probably one of the best size models that you could learn to fly. They're not too big, they're still quite stable, and like I say, there are plenty of models and companies, manufacturers out there that design 500 size models with plenty of spares available. This is the important part. Getting a model that have got spares readily available, because you're gonna crash. There's no two ways about it, right? You might be lucky and you might not have that many crashes. I've had probably, I can't remember, but I've had a few crashes, and I've even crashed some of my scale helicopters, and I've crashed my 700 Spectre, I've crashed my T-Rex 700E, but they've all been able to be repaired. So it is vitally important that you choose a model that has got a good range of spares, so if you do crash it, you can go to your local helicopter shop and buy the spares from them. The other thing that you need to be looking at also is your choice of radio. Now most people have their own preference of radio when it comes to flying a model helicopter. Now there are there are certain radios out there that are designed for helicopters only. Mikado is one of the leading RC helicopter radio specialists, but their radio sets are not cheap, I'm not going to lie. They can be anything from 700 to over £1,000 per radio, and that's just for this bit here. You can buy them though second hand, and you will find earlier versions of Mikado radios that you can buy second hand between £250 to £400 depending on the condition. However, you don't have to go Mikado. I fly all my helicopters on this Spectrum NX10. Now again, it's not a cheap radio, brand new. You're looking at around about £350 to £450 for the NX8, and the NX10 anything from £500 up. You've got the IX12 and the IX14, where we're nudging on £700 to £1,000 for those. But I use an NX10 and I find them very easy to program when it comes to setting up a helicopter, and there's all these little switches that make it look pretty and make it look complicated. But at the end of the day, the radio that you've got in your hand all does the same thing. They fly the model. It depends on what you want, what you can afford will dictate as to which radio that you have. You don't have to buy brand new, you can buy second hand, but make sure that if you buy it from a shop, you'll have no problems. But if you buy it second hand from Joe Public, then you need to make sure that it's all working first before you part with your money, because the last thing you want to do is buy a radio, pay them, and then when you get home turn it on and find out it doesn't work. Also, I recommend as well, when it comes to doing something like this, if you do buy from Joe Public, do not part with your money and get them to post it to you. If you want something like this, it's going to cost you a lot of money. You go over to wherever it is they live, or arrange to meet somewhere and see it firsthand before you depart with your cash. There are a lot of people out there that scam at the moment, guys, and the last thing you want to do is send 400 or 500 across on PayPal to pay for a radio and then you not get it. That's happened a lot. So when it comes to expensive things like this, or even a model, you go and collect it yourself, view it yourself, and then when you're happy you pay the person the money. Do not, whatever you do, get somebody to post something to you, because there's a lot of people out there that will take your money and then you don't get the product. So next thing, servos. Again, there's a variety of servos out there that are specifically for fly, that are specifically for helicopters. These are Spectrum servos. They're quite old, they are still available and they are good. There is nothing wrong with older servos as long as they're still working. But there are other servos out there like GWS and SAB servos, which are also just as good to use on RC helicopters. You only have to look on the battery died, pain in the arse. Yeah, like I was saying, there are plenty of model shops out there that specialise in RC helicopters with things for like servos. Again, it all depends on your budget and how much you can afford. You can pay anything up to £100 for one servo, depending on the make. But the more you pay, the better the quality of the servo. So it's entirely up to you, but just make sure that they are specifically for helicopters, because they are a high voltage servo. They have a lot of torque specifically to cope with the cyclic forces of a helicopter and the movement that they have to put in to these blades that rotate around between 2000 to 3000 RPM. So a good servo is the best servo, and whatever you can afford is what you get, but make sure you get something specifically for helicopters. Now there are helicopters out there that fly on what we call flybarred helicopters, and I'll show you how they work. Let's use the Long Ranger. A flybarred helicopter is it's got a rotor head that's got two blades on it, like this, I say, for example, but it's got an extra bit at the top here, and you'll have like a rod with two flappy paddles on. That is a flybar helicopter. Now earlier helicopters, sort of like they were designed, they were the main design feature of a model helicopter at that point, at that time. They had flybars, but now with technology moving on the way that it is, we can fly these models without flybars, as you can see, and they call them flybarless because there's no flybar. So to get the flybarless unit, to get the model to fly, it relies on a flybarless unit, and that's what this is here. This is what I commonly use on my larger models. They do two versions. It's the Spectrum AR7210. This is the later version. They have an earlier version which is the AR7200. They still work now perfectly. They do exactly what it says on the tin. It is a fly-barless unit. They're easy to program and they work really well. Some people don't rate them. They do a smaller version called the Micro Beast. It works exactly the same way as this does, with all these buttons that you use to program it and whatnot. And if you know what you're doing and you know how to set them up, they work really well. Anybody that says, oh, don't use Micro Beast, they're crap, wrong. They're not. They work just as well as any other fly-barless system out there. So again, it depends on your budget. I've bought quite a few of these second hand and they work really well. I've also bought them brand new and they work, funnily enough, really well. So again, it's all dependent on your budget. You know, it depends on how much you can afford. Mikado, if you use a Mikado radio, like I said, they do their own fly-barless units, Neos, Evos, that kind of thing, and you have to have their units specific to their radio, and they can be quite expensive. You're looking at about £300 a unit. These, you can buy these second hand for about 70-80 quid, but they do exactly the same thing. You know what I mean? It's personal preference, and I've got a friend, personal preference, and again, it is up to you regarding your budget. But that's what I fly with, and it works. Another good thing to have when it comes to building a helicopter is a manual, and you won't always get the manual of a helicopter that you want. Now, you'll be surprised what you can get off Tinterweb. You got a model helicopter that you need a manual. If you type in the name of the model and the specific model of the helicopter that you've got, and just put instruction manual, there will be somewhere where you can download it. And I have got one here on my iPad, and it's got everything that you need to see what to do to put the model together. So don't always think that, oh yeah, if I buy second hand I've got no manual. You can get the manuals online, guys, just as easy as you can buy a model second hand online. Right, here's another example of a DFC head, guys. Basically what you've got is the swash plate here, right? The bottom of the swash plate stays in one position, okay, and then you've got 3 points on your swash plate what your servos connect to. Predominantly the one with this bar on here, that usually goes to your elevator servo, okay. And the reason why there's a bar is because on the frame of the helicopter you've got what they call a anti-rotation bracket, and that bar will go inside like so, which allows it to move up and down and continues to hold this swash plate lower section in place. Hence why it's called an anti-rotation bracket, because it stops the swash plate from rotating. However, the top half of the swash plate does rotate round. So if I hold the bottom like this and then rotate it around, can you see how the top part is going around but the bottom half is still staying in one position? Okay, that sits on a ball bearing, which you can probably just see inside there. It sits on a big ball, ow, just caught the camera. Sits on a big ball that the shaft goes through, comes out the bottom of the swash plate there. You see it, look, there's a good shot of it there, you can just see it. And then you've got that in place, and then these arms here go directly to your servos, and then what they do is they push up and down the swash plate like so. And if you look at the pitch on the blades, see how the pitch of the blades are moving? These rods here from the swash plate go directly to the main rotor arms, and that is what creates your pitch on your helicopter. When they move up and down, it creates the pitch up positive and negative depending on which way it's going. And that is how a DFC head works basically. These here are what they call mixer arms. They're another sort of like part of the rotor head that connects to the swash plate, and it also helps keep the swash plate, it stops it from accelerating in front of the rotor head basically. So these pieces here go around the shaft with the main rotor head, and it's just more stability for the swash plate to stop it accelerating in front or behind, so you don't get no lag at all. But that's basically your DFC rotor head. Now when you notice any model helicopters flying on videos, you'll see that when the helicopter comes to a stop, you'll hear the motor stop running, but the rotor head continues to go around, and that's because of this here, right? This here is your main drive gear, which connects to your motor, and the lower one here connects to your tail rotor. But if you look, when you spin it around, it spins around quite freely. But if I try turning it the other way, see how it locks up? See? Yeah, that's what we call an anti-rotation bracket. And actually, let me just show you. I've got one in a spare one. If I just grab that quickly now. This is your anti-rotation bracket, okay? And then what you've got here, this section here sits inside on that main spindle. As you can see, you've got like 5 holes, and you can see the holes there. That mounts on the other side, okay? And then that anti-rotation bracket then goes through both the main shaft, the main gear and the tail drive gear. And that's what this section is here. If you pull this out, if you look inside there, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see those little tiny races? There's like tall, long ball races that sit inside there. And then when that goes in the shaft, in like so, it'll rotate one way, as you can see, but it won't rotate the other. It locks up, and that's basically what an anti-rotation unit is. And that's why when you see the motor quit, when the motor stops, that's why this continues to go around, because it's the anti-rotation bracket working as it should do. When the motor kicks in, it locks the gear up, and that's what drives the shaft around. So that's that bit explained. All this stuff, all these mechanics and everything, all sit round on your mainframe, and your mainframe is what literally holds everything together, hence why it's called the mainframe. And it usually consists of 2 sides made out of carbon fibre, like this one is, as you can see, 2 sides of carbon fibre, and then in between you'll have other sections that will hold it together, like brackets, which is what these are here. And these brackets contain ball races. The ball races are what your main shaft slides into. So in this case we've got one there, and then we've got another bracket underneath there which the bottom of the shaft goes through, and then we've got another piece which goes on here like so. And then what that does then, that becomes part of the frame. And then also you've got holes here, which is what your servos are mounted to. But basically once that's on, your your flybar, I'll get it out in a minute, your main shaft will then go through these bearings right the way through to the bottom, and then that bit there will slide in through the bottom of here. Whereas, well, not in this case. In this case you have to take the side frame off, put it through, and then put the side frame back on. But that goes through, and then let's take the Jesus bolt out. I'll show you. Look, I don't know why they call these Jesus bolts. I always think because when they snap, people go, "Oh, Jesus!" But anyway, probably not. But like I say, that'll go through that section, which will be mounted on the top there. And then it will continue to go through the middle section like so, down through into the bottom bearing, and then it will stick out down the bottom, as you can see. And then the Jesus bolt, as you can see there, goes through that bit on the main gear and through the hole here, which is at the bottom of the shaft. And like I say, that connects into there like so, bolted into place, and that's how that is fixed inside the main frame. So I'll get all that done now, guys, off camera, and then I'll come back to you when it's all done. There we have it. We have now Right, yeah, we now have one anti-rotation bracket fitted, main gears fitted, and the main rotor head now fitted. You can see now what I'm on about with this anti-rotation bracket here. Look, if you look at that there, that sits in there, like I say, and then it means that when, I know it's a bit wobbly at the moment, but that's because it's not, but there you go, and see what I mean? So, you know, that basically keeps the bottom half of the swash plate from moving, and the top half is able to do its business without, you know, causing any issues. And then if you listen, hear that? I can show the motor. So that's freewheeling, but if I turn it the other way, it engages with the motor. That's the anti-rotation bracket. See what I mean? The motor continues to spin, but the blade doesn't. That's what the anti-rotation bracket does, guys. Okay, next we are going to be fitting the tail rotor gearbox and the flybarless bracket, that in. So we'll do that now, and then once that's done, we can fit the tail boom. Nearly ballsed up there, guys. Before I put the tail rotor gearbox in, I've got to put boom in, because if I don't put boom in now, I won't be able to get it in. So that's going to be included, and then the tail rotor gearbox will be fitted into the mechanics. So try again. Okay, now we have the tail rotor fitted and the tail boom fitted into the tail rotor gearbox, and if you look at the end there, you can see that when I rotate the old rotor head, the tail shaft goes round with it. So that now is that bit sorted. So I think what I'm going to do now, I'm going to fit the undercarriage legs to the bottom of the frame. That way then it'll make it a little bit more stable and make it easier for me to work on. So I'll get them fitted on there now, and I'll come back to you when it's done. Okay guys, we have the skids fitted. So what I'm going to do now is, now I've got a bit more stability and I'm able to work a bit better without it going tip and all that, I'm going to fit the tail boom supports, which are these here, and the tail wing, which is this here, and then once they're done, I can fit the support for the control arm, which has disappeared. There it is. That goes there and is for the tail rotor control, and then I can then fit the tail rotor to it. So let's get all that sorted out, guys. Okay guys, we now have the tail rotor fitted and the tail boom all connected up and ready to go. I'll put the tail skid on. That is basically to stop the tail rotor going into the deck. Now, some of you that are observant may realise that this seems rather long compared to a normal size helicopter. And although I said that this is basically a Blade 550X, which it is, if you can see on the tail there, it's got a ligney, as I call it, a line 700 helicopter boom. This is basically a T-Rex 700 boom. It's been cut down a little bit. It's had about 6 inches taken off it, that's what she said, but it's a little bit shorter, and there's a reason for me doing this. Is because hopefully once all this is all set up and flying, these mechanics are going into a new scale fuselage which will be coming up hopefully in the not too distant future, and it's going to be a nice one. So that's why it looks a little bit stretched, but yeah, it is for a reason. It's going to go into a scale fuselage at some point. So now we've got everything sorted out, almost there. We've got all the mechanics now all fitted. It won't stay, look, stand, no, oh, hang on, and a loop. We've got all the mechanics now fitted in. The boom is all on, the tail rotor is all connected up and whatnot, and now I think the next stage will be to put this out on the front of the helicopter. That is basically the ESC mount. That's where the ESC is going to sit. And then it's just a case of putting all the servos in. So, right, brief description of what we've done so far. We have got lift and separate. We have got a Blade 550X. It is fitted with a DFC head, a direct flight control systems head, as I showed you. It works on a standard setup for any helicopter, although this is like a Blade 550X. Excuse me. Any helicopter regarding this, what we are doing will be basically set up in very much the same way. Each helicopter design, each helicopter manufacturer has their own way of doing things, but the principle and the concept of how a helicopter works and flies is exactly the same. So it doesn't matter whether it's an Aligney helicopter, as I call them, an Align helicopter, a Blade helicopter, a Tron, a SAB, anything like that. The concept of how they fly is exactly the same. They all use a swash plate, they all have 3 cyclic servos and a tail rotor servo, and they all work in exactly the same principle: forward, backwards, left and right. I'll explain more about that for you beginners when I get the servos all connected and fitted in. So the next stage is going to be fitting the servos, the fly-by system and the escapade, and then once they're all connected up, we'll be able to go back into the whole process of how to get the thing programmed to go the direction that it should. So I'll come back to you once the servos are done, guys, and then we'll go from there. Well, one of the things that you need to do before you fit any servos in is mechanically centre the actual control horns, and the way you can do that is if you get a servo tester, in my case one of these, and then you connect your servo to your servo tester, plug it into any battery that is used. Now you'll see it works like so, but if you press the button to go central, that is now shown in the middle, okay, and our position on here is like this. So that control horn there with the ball link needs to be up here. So you just basically undo your control horn, find out where the position of the servo's got to go, and then put the servo arm 90 degrees to your control horns on the actual servos themselves, on the swash plate, and that's it basically. But mechanically centering them means that you're virtually at the middle point of the travel of the servo. That way then when it comes to adjusting the direction in your flight controller, it it'll be very minuscule as to how much movement you need to get it to centre properly through the flight controller. So do that first, guys, before you install your servos. Okay, fellas and fellas, we have now got all the servos fitted, and I've routed all the wire. Hang on a minute, let's zoom in. Hang on a minute, hold on. That's better, he was zoomed in too much. Right, I've got all the servos fitted now. That is your pitch servo, or your elevator servo. Sorry, that is your pitch servo. And one on the other side, there's your aileron servo. And as you can see, I would colour coordinate all my servos. So whatever plug is blue, that's that servo. Red is the plug around the other side. And yellow is that one, vice versa. So that is now all sorted. Now what I've got to sort out now is the electronic speed controller. This is what they call an opto ESC, which means it runs on a separate power supply. In this case, a 20 amp BEC that I've got. That is powered by a 3S 2200 battery, and that will go into your flybarless system up the top here, and then it literally runs your electronic speed controller on signal only coming out of there. So I'll get all that put in quickly, and then I'll come back to you. Right guys, servos are now in and fitted. The electronic speed controller is now in and fitted and wired up. Always try and keep the wire, or no try, do keep the wire away from your gears. The last thing you want, boom. So they're all plugged into the flybarless system now. So the next stage is to get this sat down and secured, and then program the flybarless system, and then we're virtually ready to go. So let's crack on. Right guys, we have everything set up. Flybarless system is all in and everything is all working, as you can see, like so. Tail rotor, then we've got the swash plate left and right, and the collective, or the throttle as it is in this case, with collective. So I'll get the batteries connected up. I want to try and get out there and give it a quick fly because it's starting to get dark. Hopefully we can give it a quick hover, make sure everything's all right, and then I'll come back. Right guys, it is 2 days later from me finishing setting up the helicopter. The weather yesterday was absolutely abysmal. It was chucking it down with rain, and it was blowing a 40-mile-an-hour gust, so I opted to stay at home. But I did have another issue with the helicopter. The auto-rotation bearing was the wrong way around, and the blades were going the wrong way, so I've had to repair that. I've got all that sorted out. So here we go, let's test this model out. Now, all being well, it should just fly straight off the deck. But let's see what happens. Now, this is, like I say, a Blade 550X. It is an old model. It's a discontinued model, but I'm only using it as an example of what you could do when it comes to learning to fly a model helicopter. Another thing as well, you probably noticed those blades are rather familiar. They're off the Long Ranger. Turns out the blades that I got for this were the wrong size, and the holes that the bolts go through were the wrong size. So I've had to nick the blades off the Long Ranger for now, just to test this. But anyway, let's see how it goes, shall we? We have got on the gyro settings 30% on the tail. Hopefully that will be enough. And as you can see, we've got tail movement. When you look at a tail from behind, you know if you've got it the right way. I don't know if you can see the transmitter there, but when you move the stick to the left, see the slider at the back of the tail? It needs to move to the right, and then vice versa. If you move the stick to the right, the slider moves to the left. So as long as they're opposite, when you move the tail stick on the rudder, then you've got it going the right way around. Okay, just a quick example there. And then we've got on my transmitter, I fly mode 1, so elevator, Forward elevator moves the swash plate forward, rear elevator moves it back, and then aileron, left aileron moves it to the left, right aileron moves it to the right. And then with throttle hold on, you increase your throttle and it gives you positive and negative pitch. Okay, so let's see how it goes. Oh dear, that wind has just temporarily dropped. Let's hope it stays down. Right, maiden flight, let's see how it goes. Need to go up to idle at 1. Increase the head speed, stop the tail from blowing out. And away we go. I forgot the word, didn't I? Contact, there we go. Straight off. The wind is making it move about a bit, which will make it go up and down. That's what makes it go up and down. Every time a gust of wind hits it, it'll make the helicopter climb. So you have to compensate by lowering the stick. But that's going okay. Right, left, forward and backwards. All good. Left rudder, right rudder. Perfect. There we go, guys. So we've now built a helicopter and got it all set up, and now we're in the early stages of learning to fly, and this is the hardest part. Hovering a model helicopter is the hardest part, and if you can learn to do that, you've made a massive step forward. Look at the wind, how it's making it go up and down. This helicopter has been built from spares. I've got that many spares for this helicopter, I've managed to build a second one. The original mechanics are in my Long Ranger. So this is another set of mechanics that I've made together out of all the spares that I've got. Unfortunately, it's a discontinued model. So I really don't want to crash this if I can help it. We're running on a 6S 5200. That'll probably give me around about 5 minutes of constant hovering like this. So as you can see, it's doing really well. I can't fly it around too much because there's other people flying out on the strip, and with it being the first hover, I don't really want to take it out and push it around like I would normally do. But there you go, guys. As you can see, we've got a fully functional model helicopter that you can learn to fly on. I don't know what that is, but it's something passing over the top and I want to see what it is. Right, let's land her. Gently bring her down. Touch down nice and gently. Decrease the pitch and throttle hold. There we go. What was that? That was some kind of warbird that just flew over then. And there we go, guys. From building from a kit, in case that's what you think it's like from a kit, building a model, setting it up, getting the blades balanced and flying it, and that is what you need to learn to fly a helicopter. And from there, the grounds are limitless. As long as you can learn to fly one of these and hover them, and over a period of time continue practicing with the different methods that you use, different control throws, different inputs, you'll be able to learn to fly a helicopter. One of the best things that you can also purchase when learning to fly is a sim. You will be surprised how much you can learn on a simulator. But I've got throttle hold on now. Let's have a quick look, see if you can see. I'll zoom in on the, because I'm not going to kneel down on the grass because it's wet. So on my transmitter, if you can see, I'll try to hold the transmitter in the screen, and if you can see the swash plate, like I say, I flied mode 1. So for mode 1, the throttle is on the right hand stick, which also increases and decreases your pitch. You see the pitch on the blades going up and down, and then down. And then I've also got aileron, so left aileron, swash plate moves to the left, right aileron, swash plate moves to the right. And then on the left stick I've got elevator, forward elevator pitches the helicopter forward, back elevator makes the helicopter go backwards, and then you've also got rudder, left rudder and right rudder on the tail. Hope that's in the shot, probably not knowing my luck. But there you go guys, that is the basic setup on how to set up a model helicopter. Right, let's take her inside because it's bloody cold out here today. On a last note guys, that video that I've just done, if you want a more in-depth look into how a helicopter actually flies, if you want me to do a video on you know, flying the actual helicopter and putting the controls in and telling you what I'm putting in and what the helicopter reacts to, then let me know in the comments below guys, and I'll do another video, another tutorial. I'm not a 3D helicopter pilot, I only fly sport and scale. So when it comes to 3D, I would recommend you go and see my friend Richard on RC Helicopter Richard on YouTube. The description and the link to his channel is down below. But if you want to learn to fly basic sport maneuvers and that kind of thing, then I can do a video on that guys. So let me know and see what you say, and then we'll go from there. Right, earlier in the video I mentioned that there was two different types of transmitters out there, and one of them was specifically for flying helicopters, and that is this one here on the left. That is a Mikado V-bar, and they are specially designed and built for radio controlled helicopters. You can see the difference compared to that one with mine. They're very similar with the stick setups and everything. Now the difference between mine and this one, obviously according, apart from the actual make, is mine is on mode 1 like I explained to you outside just a minute ago, and this one here is on mode 2, which is the more common mode. Mode 2, you've got throttle on the right hand side and on the left, and your collective pitch, and you've also got your rudder on the left hand side, whereas on this one you've got elevator and aileron on the right hand stick, whereas on mine you've got throttle and aileron on the right hand stick, and you've got elevator and rudder on the left hand stick. But that is the Mikado radio that I was telling you about. They're expensive, but they are designed specifically for model helicopters, and they are very easy to set them up. So if you've got the money, that's what you would buy. If it was a lot of money that you were willing to spend, I mean, these are between £500 and £1,000 a piece, brand new. This one here, you're looking at around about £400 to £500, but they both still fly a helicopter. So that's the difference between a specific radio for helicopters and a normal Spectrum radio, but they will still both fly a model helicopter. Okay guys, we can give a different variation of helicopters here that you could use to fly and learn to fly on. Now we've got my little Blade 550X here, which is more of a 600 size helicopter than a 550. But again, you've just seen me build with the spares and actually fly this model. But depending on your budget, it dictates as to what you can actually fly. I mean, we've got a Tron 558 here, which is fitted with an Ego drift motor. It's more top of the range kind of helicopter, but again, it can be learnt to flying. It's not too big, it's a little bit smaller than my Blade 550X, but again, it's still a good example of a helicopter that you can use to learn to fly, whether it be sport or 3D. Complicated head system on there, no different to what I'm flying on mine, just a different design slightly, but the concept is exactly the same. And then higher up in the market with price and cost, we've got here the old Goblin770. This is a SAB design, but again, it is a helicopter that can be used to learn to fly if your budget does suit you so. I mean, the concept with any helicopter, they're all designed exactly the same, but they're all different manufacturers, and the cost is what you can afford. I mean, like I say, we're going from various sizes, various manufacturers with all varying prices, and then you can go as far afterwards to something as big as the Spectre 700 here. This is my example of the Spectre 700 by XL Power. Like I say, it is a 700 size helicopter, so the blades are going to be 680 to 700 millimeters long. But again, it is a nice, stable flying model helicopter, and it's something that you can advance onto once you've flown some of the smaller models here and got more comfortable with how they fly. But again, like I say, the concept is exactly the same. Kind of head is the same as well. This is a direct flight control head with mixer arms, DFC head. But again, the bigger the helicopter, the more stable they are to fly. But once you've done all this, guys, using these helicopters, whichever one you choose, there's no saying that in the end you can't go on to something like this. It all depends on what you want to fly. You may want to fly scale, you may want to fly sport, you may want to just fly 3D. All of these 4 models here that I've just done a review on are all capable of doing 3D, but they can all be flown like a scale helicopter in a sport way. And if that's what you enjoy, then this is what you're going to want to be building eventually. So like I say, guys, the sky is the limit regarding what you fly, but a lot of it depends on your budget. So there we go, guys. Let that be an introduction into how to build and fly a model helicopter and how to set one up, prepare it and get it to hover. And then, like I say, using flight simulators that you can buy. Phoenix was one that I used to use, which is discontinued. You can now get real flights, you can get AccuRC. They're all good sims to learn to fly model helicopters with, and I highly recommend it's something that you do if you want to go down the road of flying a helicopter. But there we go, guys. Let it be a quick introduction and what you need to do to fly a model helicopter and how to go around it. I hope you've enjoyed the video, guys. I hope it's helped you and I hope it's been informative. Do the usual. If you're not subscribed, do subscribe to the channel, click the like button and the notification bell and all that, and I will see you next time, guys, on the next video. Thanks for watching. that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you fly 3D. Thanks to RC Helicopter Richard there.